They say rivalry is the heartbeat of sport, but sometimes that heartbeat turns erratic, feverish, dangerous. In the cold months of the American football season, when Kansas City and Buffalo collide, something older than the game awakens. For decades, two cities, two teams, two identities have stared each other down through the glare of stadium lights, each believing they are the chosen heirs of the gridiron throne. But behind the chants, the helmets, and the touchdowns, there's another story, one that smells of money, control, betrayal, and the kind of obsession that blurs the line between loyalty and crime. The story begins long before the cameras caught the glare of Patrick Mahomes or the icy stare of Josh Allen. It began in the 1960s, when the AFL was young and football was still a working man's war. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills were more than rivals. They were symbols. Buffalo was the blue-collar city that never slept, built on steel, sweat, and stubborn pride. Kansas City was the bold frontier, polished yet restless, where ambition walked hand in hand with arrogance. When they first clashed in 1966, it wasn't just a game, it was a statement. The Chiefs won that day. The Bills never forgot. Over the years, the rivalry became a living thing. Every loss etched deeper resentment. Every victory left the other side thirstier for revenge. And yet, the deeper truth, one the NFL never advertised, was that rivalry made money. Rivalry sold hope, beer, tickets, and dreams. The league's boardrooms learned that friction was gold. And in those boardrooms sat people like Tommy Rourke, a quiet, calculating executive whose smile hid a ledger of secrets. Rourke was no player. He was the man behind the curtain. A consultant for team sponsors, he handled millions in performance incentives, sponsorship fees, and untraceable side deals. To the public, he was just another suit. To insiders, he was the broker of influence. By the time Patrick Mahomes took his first professional snap, Rourke already had his fingers in every major franchise's wallet. He believed that greatness could be engineered if you knew where to apply pressure. And when Buffalo began rising under Josh Allen, Rourke saw a storm forming that could make or break fortunes. The new age of the rivalry was electric. Mahomes versus Allen, two quarterbacks born for television, each carrying their city's hunger. Every matchup between them became a national event, and with it came ratings, betting, and corporate empires that fed on spectacle. Somewhere in Vegas, anonymous accounts placed multi-million-dollar bets before every Chiefs-Bills clash. The same names appeared in the offshore ledgers, Rourke's initials among them. But for the men on the field, it wasn't about money, at least not yet. It was about redemption, pride, legacy, until the weight of expectation started twisting the game into something darker. The 2021 divisional round, the game known simply as 13 seconds. Buffalo was seconds away from victory. Mahomes pulled off the impossible, carving through Buffalo's defense to force overtime and win. To the world, it was a miracle. To Buffalo, it was heartbreak. To a few gamblers who had wagered against the spread, it was a financial earthquake. That night, $178 million shifted hands worldwide. Some called it luck. Others whispered that someone knew what was coming. Months later, a quiet rumor spread in betting circles, a leak. Someone in Kansas City's inner circle had been selling strategic data. Not playbooks, but psychological reads, patterns of behavior, signals of confidence, subtle tells in communication between quarterbacks and coaches. Legal? Hardly. Traceable? Almost never. But it was enough to tilt the odds. That was when investigative reporter Dana Reeves took notice. Reeves, a Buffalo-based journalist, had been chasing small stories about corporate mismanagement in the NFL. When she stumbled onto Rourke's name buried in a confidential finance document, she sensed something deeper. She started following the money: ticketing syndicates, sports data companies, offshore betting firms registered in Panama. The same names appeared again and again, often linked to the Chiefs-Bills rivalry. Reeves didn't have proof yet, but her instincts told her this was more than coincidence. On the field, Allen and Mahomes kept feeding the rivalry. Fans turned into armies. Stadiums became arenas of war. But off the field, unseen forces were shaping outcomes that went beyond the scoreboard. In 2023, the rivalry flared again. Late November, a cold, biting wind swept Arrowhead Stadium. The Bills came to Kansas City, hungry for revenge. The tension was palpable. Both teams had suffered scandals that season: leaked emails, unreported bonuses, fines for conduct violations. Still, nothing compared to what happened that night. Fourth quarter, the Chiefs were down by 3. Mahomes threw deep. Flag, a controversial call. Fans erupted in rage. Buffalo supporters claimed the officials were bought. Kansas City's front office denied it. But 2 days later, Dana Reeves received an anonymous email: 3 photos. One of an envelope, one of a referee in a hotel lobby, and one of a handshake. Attached was a single line: the game was never meant to be fair. The NFL launched an internal review, quietly. No charges, no names, no findings. The file disappeared into the league's archive. Officially, there was no scandal. Unofficially, it was a warning shot. For Reeves, it was confirmation that her story had teeth and enemies. Meanwhile, Rourke was growing impatient. He had spent years engineering outcomes, manipulating corporate streams, and balancing influence between the two franchises. But new investors were moving in, shadow financiers from Europe and Asia, treating NFL rivalries like stock markets. They wanted control. They wanted predictability. Rourke's empire was under threat. He turned to someone new, an intermediary known only as the broker. The broker wasn't on payrolls or contracts. He lived in coded calls, encrypted transfers, offshore wallets. His specialty was silence, ensuring that certain stories never reached daylight. The broker had handled match fixing in soccer, race manipulation in Formula One, and even data breaches in the Olympics. To him, football was just another market. When Reeves' first article dropped, titled "The Cost of Rivalry: Who Profits When the Game Turns Dark?" it was shared across sports networks, then quietly buried. Within a week, her publisher received cease and desist letters. Within 2, her funding was cut. She kept digging anyway. Inside Buffalo's training facility, tensions boiled. Allen began questioning the fairness of officiating. His coaches told him to focus on the game, but something in his gut said the stage was being set. On the other side, Mahomes wasn't untouched either. Anonymous threats began appearing in his inbox. Some mentioned betting debts. Others accused him of playing the script. He ignored them until a private security report revealed his home network had been hacked twice. Financial data, family schedules, even his gate access logs, gone. The FBI quietly flagged the incident as part of a larger sports intrusion pattern. nothing public, no press. But inside the Bureau, a new task force was formed, Operation Blitz. Their first directive: follow the money between betting platforms, NFL affiliates, and offshore trusts linked to sports data leaks. Rourke's name was one of the first to appear on the internal list. In the months that followed, strange events multiplied. A Buffalo assistant coach was fired for ethics violations. A Kansas City equipment manager resigned after an accounting error revealed $2.4 million missing. Then came the arrest. A low-level data technician caught selling player analytics to a shell company in Singapore. The documents traced back to a Kansas City front. The broker's network was tightening. Reeves interviewed a former employee of Rourke's firm, a nervous young accountant named Eric Delaney. He claimed the company kept dual ledgers, one for sponsors, one for strategic partnerships. When she asked what strategic meant, he simply said, "Rivalries that make money don't happen by chance." Days later, Delaney vanished. His apartment was found unlocked, phone smashed. No trace. By early 2024, cracks were showing everywhere. The NFL's integrity unit was overwhelmed. Leaked documents hinted that the league had quietly paid settlements to whistleblowers. The same year, both the Chiefs and Bills announced record sponsorship earnings and record fines. Reporters whispered that a war was brewing inside the league itself. The executives who wanted exposure versus those who wanted silence. And through it all, the fans kept cheering, blind to the machinery beneath. In late spring, the rivalry took an unexpected turn. Mahomes and Allen, tired of the scrutiny, privately agreed to a joint charity event, a symbolic gesture to cool tensions. The media praised them. But behind the scenes, their agents were warned, don't mix business with goodwill. 1 week before the event, a data breach hit the charity's donation server. Nearly $6 million vanished. Cyber forensics traced the entry point to a Kansas City-based IP, the same subnet that once routed through Rourke's consultancy. The broker had made his move. Reeves went public again, revealing fragments of the investigation. But this time the story didn't die. It exploded. Congressional hearings were proposed. Commentators called it the Ridian Scandal. The NFL denied all wrongdoing. Sponsors distanced themselves. Stocks of parent companies wobbled. What had started as a rivalry between teams had become a war over the soul of the sport. Through leaked emails, Reeves uncovered a private message from Rourke to an unidentified associate. "If this gets out, we burn it all down." She printed it and hid it in a safety deposit box. That night, her car alarm went off twice. Security footage later showed a figure in a hoodie walking away. Mahomes' next season began under unusual silence. No interviews. No social media outbursts, just focus. But teammates noticed the change, a quiet paranoia. He'd glance at the stands like he was being watched. Allen, on the other hand, seemed angrier, reckless. He spoke out about fake narratives and puppet masters. The league fined him, but the words stuck. Then, just when it seemed things couldn't spiral further, tragedy struck. During a preseason exhibition, a blackout hit the stadium in Kansas City. 10 minutes of total darkness. When lights returned, a backup quarterback had collapsed. Heart failure, they said. The cause was undiagnosed condition, but those who saw the replays swore something was off. Security feeds for those 10 minutes were corrupted. Files missing. Backup servers wiped. The broker's digital signature was found buried deep in the metadata. The FBI doubled its efforts. Operation Blitz expanded internationally. Dana Reeves was placed under protective watch after receiving a photo of her own front door in the mail. Rourke vanished from Kansas City's corporate scene. Rumors claimed he had fled to Zurich. Others said he was handled. No one knew for sure. By autumn, the Chiefs and Bills met again, this time under the shadow of investigations, lawsuits, and public mistrust. Ratings soared. Fans chanted louder than ever. The NFL smiled publicly, even as it bled privately. Behind every touchdown was a silent transaction, every penalty a point on a financial graph. Yet amid the chaos, one man, a retired field official named Marcus Dale, decided to speak. He told a podcast that he had once been instructed to ensure a result during a Chiefs-Bills game. When pressed, he refused to name who gave the order, only saying they wore expensive watches and cheap consciences. 2 days later, his house caught fire. Accidental, said the report. No accelerant found. For Reeves, the pattern was clear. The rivalry had become a theater of crime, not just for gamblers and brokers, but for the institutions that thrived on it. Every hero was a pawn. Every villain wore a suit. And somewhere in that labyrinth, the line between sport and scandal had vanished. In her final recorded note before disappearing from public view, Reeves said, "If you want to find the truth, follow the losses, not the wins. The losers always pay twice, once on the field and once in the dark. But the story doesn't end there. Because while the lights of Arrowhead and Highmark blaze every Sunday, something else is brewing, something deeper than rivalry, bigger than sport. The money is still moving, the servers are still humming, and the same offshore accounts that once funded a game are now funding silence. Episode 2 will uncover what that silence costs, when the fans become weapons and loyalty becomes lawless. Because in the world of true shadows, winning is never the point.